2, 3.
So, as you could tell, I just got through running across the cornfields with my dogs to come over here on a Saturday and say hi to everybody. So I'll get better at this. We'll get higher quality in the editing room because I do all my own production too. Anyway, again, love you guys. Go say hi to somebody. Just wave at somebody. Start there. Just wave at some people. Younger people, older people. I did that backwards, didn't I? Younger people, older people. Just go out and say hi. Let's start. There was a hashtag that Barbie wants to get started. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to look through some of the old films. We need to be pulling together and discussing these items, and not be afraid to have a dinner. What do they call it? Table dinner, or around the dinner table. Politics is a device to keep this country moving forward. I know that all the people in the middle class want this country to keep moving forward. I also know that the politicians we have currently in place on both sides of the aisle, some way more than others, but we have a situation now where the politicians don't want us to necessarily move forward. They want, in our education and our information to be lower and lower so that they can control more. They have very perfect lives, really. And these are the things we don't understand. You know, we need to really be able to have the courage and have the patience to be looking at our politicians more directly, with more information. As I've said before, we have a utopia coming, and if we don't have control over our politicians, as that utopia comes, then we won't have that utopia. We will be moved into whatever needs that the country has, without the rewards. This middle class of America has been stronger and done more than my own. I know I'm biased, but than any other. As a matter of fact, all the middle classes, around the world, is what the economy is built on, and we have no say at how that money is spent. All right. I'll admit that pre-show media is not aligned with what we're doing today, and I thought I had a different one on there. I missed that step, but with that said, just take a breath, settle in, maybe set whatever's in your hand down for just a moment, okay? Because today's conversation isn't about hustling harder, learning one more tool, or keeping up with whatever the world decided changed overnight, right? It's about something quieter, and for a lot of people, far more confronting. It's about that moment many of us get hit by, usually in midlife, right? Often during or in success, almost always when nobody else is watching. That moment where you realize, you look around and you realize, I did what I was supposed to do. I carried responsibility. I showed up. I provided. And yet something inside you knows the life you built no longer fully fits. Not because it's wrong, not because you failed or anything, but because you outgrew it. Producer Barbie and I talk a lot. We talk to a lot of people who are doing just fine on paper. Leaders, builders, professionals, parents. People who held things together for years, sometimes decades. And behind the scenes, the same pattern keeps surfacing. They didn't collapse or anything. They didn't give up, right? They didn't fall apart, certainly. They woke up. And here's the problem with that. our culture doesn't really give us a clean language for that. We call it burnout, midlife crisis, right? Restlessness. But what if it's something else? What if it's initiation, a moment where the old map stops working, not because you're broken, but because you're being asked to live more honestly? Today's guest understands that moment to his bones. And before we even go there, I want to pause and do something really important because the show doesn't exist in isolation. Today, we're proud to welcome two new sponsors who believe deeply in the questions we're asking here. The Mangum City Library, a place that understands learning doesn't stop at graduation, and that real community starts with open doors and shared curiosity. And eLeaf Labs, who are actively supporting our Regeneration School project and Voices at the Table, helping us to reimagine education agency and how young people learn to think, speak, and lead in a changing world. These aren't just sponsors, they're partners in the work because regeneration, whether personal or communal, doesn't happen in theory. So it happens locally, it happens relationally, it happens when people decide to invest in humans, not just systems. Okay? Now, back to today. Our guest, Ingo Schulmeyer, didn't just switch careers or chase a new lifestyle trend. He questioned the very definition of security. And at a point where most people double down, he stepped back, you know? He looked at the cost of success, not just financially, but physically, emotionally, relationally. And instead of numbing that awareness, he listened to it. And that led that's it led to selling I think everything, maybe almost everything, right? Leaving corporate certainty, moving his family, and rebuilding a life grounded not in optimization, but in alignment. And here's where this gets personal for me because this conversation is not abstract. It is almost point for point the blueprint of my own life's journey. Different industry, I get it, different geography, but it has different details, but the same questions, the same reckoning with identity, the same realization that success. Oh my God. Remember everything I said earlier, Ingo, about how when I jump off the stage, I'm still there? I have no idea what has happened, but I just lost everything. I don't know how far along you all went, "Hey guys, how you doing? I am so sorry for that." Ingo, you can hear me, right?
I can hear you, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Now I
All
hear you,
right.
yeah.
So I had a whole rest of the presentation to go, and I don't know how far I got, but the
I just lost like
entire
the last
internet
minute.
system.
Now we're on live 10 minutes, and I lost you at around 8 minutes 20. Then the picture
Okay, so
froze.
we got most of the. You got a good idea at how the intro into the show. I mean, I didn't get all the way through it. Did I pronounce your name right, by the way, sir?
Yeah, that's okay. It's the American way, but it's okay. Schulmeyer, yeah.
Repeat it back to me because I have two awesome things: names, spellings. I'm fascinated by them, and accents. And I screwed up the first one already. So give me your proper name and then go through your journey, would you please, sir? I appreciate it.
Sure. It's Ingo, like bingo. No? For the Americans, I say it's like bingo without B. No, in Mexico, I say it's like Domingo.
Okay,
Dom.
Domingo.
So and Schulmeyer. My last name is Schulmeyer. That's a little bit difficult for Americans. Don't worry.
Schulmeyer. Okay.
Yes.
That is beautiful. All right, I'm only going with Ingo from now on. So,
That's good.
how you doing, brother? How's everything going?
I'm doing good. I'm doing pretty good here. Everything perfect.
All right, and right now I assume you're on Pacific time because you're in Mexico now. You moved from where?
I think I'm 1 hour ahead of Pacific time. I'm between Pacific and East Coast time. I think I'm 2 hours behind
Mountain
East Coast
time.
Yeah.
Mountain time then. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Mountain time.
It switches between mountain time and central time because Mexico stopped like to change into daylight saving time. So we have all the year we have the same time, but the US is still doing that. So for 6 months, I think we're mountain time. For 6 months, we're like central time.
I think the U.S. is going to change that too pretty soon. That's what I've heard. I don't know. I hope so. That way, everybody.
All the countries are discussing that since in Europe they're also discussing this every year, again and again.
All the time. So, Europe. Where are you from? Where did you give me the journey? The journey before the journey, as we talked about back in the green room here. What brought you to the journey that now puts you and I together?
Yeah, so I would say all my life is a journey, right?
Oh, by the way, there's 140 people on. Sorry about that. There's 140 people on already. They just jumped on.
Nice to meet you all. Thanks for being here, and thanks for the invitation, first of all. Yeah, so I grew up in Germany, right? So I lived most of my life, I lived in Germany. And I started there also then when I was in my 20s. I finished university. I started my career in the semiconductor industry. And then I did what most people do, right? In their 20s, they're motivated. They want to go for the career. They want to make some money and buy a fancy car and build a family and have a house and like all the values that we somehow adopt, that these are our values, or we adopt them as our values, and we think that's the thing to go after. And I think that's also okay in this age because you have all the energy, the motivation, and it was also a good time. So I started this career working as an engineer in the semiconductor industry, and then I got my promotions. I get over the years, I became a project manager, product manager, tech director, and yeah. But then in the last years, let's say starting in 2017, 18, all the time and I must say I was always good in chasing or not only setting my goals and chasing them, but also achieving them, right? So I had a lot of like professional goals in my job. And also like I'm an athlete. I did a lot of triathlons and long distance cycling and running and this kind of stuff. And I was always very good. I'm very like focused. If I set myself a goal, I'm sure I'm gonna achieve it, right? I mean, I'm going for that, and that's I did in my professional career, but also in my personal life. Then, yeah, I wasn't. So I found out when I turned into my 40s, I found out this this didn't help me anymore, right? It's just the next promotion or the next pay raise, so I wasn't so. It didn't fulfill me anymore, right? I just thought, okay, what's next? What's next? And let me tell you the more like let's say the more illustrative story about it. That was about my athletic career, right? So I did long distance triathlons, I did Ironmans and all this kind of stuff. And all my adult life, I had this dream of going to the Ironman World Championship in Hawaii, right? Because it's like the Olymp, or Valhalla, or
it is.
Like this is the biggest that you can achieve as a endurance athlete. So everybody wants to go there. No, few make it actually. So I think I did my first Ironman in 2007 or 2008, and since then I was at this time I was not good enough. So, but you're having this dream, right? But then every year I became better and better and faster and everything. So I said, one day I said, okay, this is my goal. I'm going to Hawaii. Okay, so I was really focused for 3-4 years preparing for that. And then finally, and you cannot just go there, right? You need to qualify, you need to do another race, right. And to qualify, you need a certain time. So it's only few people can actually go there. But and then in 2018, I went to Ironman Frankfurt to qualify. I had the right, or I was good enough, so I got a slot, and I booked the ticket, and I went to Hawaii.
Nice.
But then something interesting happens, right? Because it was my dream for all my life, right? Or one of my dreams at least. But it was interesting because I went to Hawaii with a friend. We went there. It was a great vacation. It was a great experience, right? And we finished also this competition. But it was interesting because once I passed this finish line in Hawaii, and then, of course, you're happy. There's a lot of euphoria and everything. But then on the next day, you're starting realizing, or you're starting asking yourself, okay, what's next? I mean, now I've been to Hawaii. What's coming after Hawaii? So there, you can do it faster. So I didn't really have this goal anymore, this competitive goal anymore. And yeah, so I started questioning all this, like this goal achievement and all this, like chasing goals and this values. And then it reflected also on my professional career, right? In my job, I wasn't so happy anymore. And it became even worse when then we all know in 2020, the pandemic started and it changed a lot of things. Before in my job, at least I was traveling a lot, and most of the times I liked my job, right? I was traveling to customers in the US and in Asia, and had a lot of good times. But then during the pandemic, everything stopped. You're just sitting all day long in front of this Zoom or Teams meetings, and you're just thinking, oh my God, another one. So, and also then at this time we actually lived in Israel. So in 2019 we moved to Israel. I went there for a job. So I was working in a company in Israel. And then I was very, I wouldn't say like depressive, but I wasn't really happy and energetic anymore. So and also with my wife and the kids, the kids couldn't go to school anymore, right? Because the schools were closed. So we were sitting at home, and actually it was my wife that was more pushing me a little bit in this direction. I think you mentioned it already. So in 2022, I then made a decision. I quit my job. We sold everything. We sold our house, cars, most of our belongings. And we took our 2 dogs and 2 kids, and we went to the airport, one-way ticket to Mexico. And we said, okay, let's start a new life in Mexico, and let's see what what life brings there. And yeah, so it was actually my wife. And before we did this discussion, sorry, go ahead.
That's interesting that it was your wife that pushed that direction. So what do you think was kind of sprinkled around that whole thing? Or why was she that pushed that was kind of, well, I mean, was it because she saw the emotional or the physical distress that all this is coming upon you, or what was the purpose, do you think it was?
No, I
mean,
think
that's not common.
First, sorry? That you think
I
it's
was
not
just
coming
gonna
that my
say
wife
because
is making this?
no, that necessarily somebody who that is part of a relationship would want to cut down that whole other safety or whatever that is. There has to be a reason, obviously. So I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Actually, I think my wife, even before the pandemic, she mentioned this a few times. So let's just go somewhere else, right? Because
Oh, so she's an
let me
adventurous.
tell you the story about. So we are both travelers, right? We love to travel. We love to go.
Ah, okay.
Actually, we
Okay, I
met
get it.
20 years ago. Actually, now, yeah, it's exactly no, it's actually 21 years ago. It was in winter 2005, 2004 to 2005. We met in India. Right, we were both backpackers at this time.
Wow,
We met in India and we
never
traveled
been
there
there.
together for 2-3 months. And after that, she came to me to Germany, to the city where I studied. And yeah, so we're travelers, right? We love to travel the world. And
It's
she
neat to
mentioned
see
this
the
already.
different parts of the world and cultures and things that happen within that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's truly a special, we talk about on the show periodically, and we're kind of diversing off here a little bit, but we, the, we talk a lot about this show about the the great middle class, right, which is made up of a wide range, and when I say that, by extension across the world, um, but we're all made up of an extension of ideals and backgrounds and experiences and so forth. But it's amazing how many people don't expand beyond a certain amount. Like what fascinated me, as I kind of alluded to in the opening monologue about your journey, is that, well, you just touched on it again there, and being curious, going and looking out into other places, other people, other resources around the world, and even within your own country to do the same thing. I mean, this country is quite diverse, from the south to the northeast to the west coast to South Dakota or Tennessee or Kentucky, right? They're all really different, and it's a shame that more people don't take that approach. And yours is a much more defined and focused. But as a general net, I really admired and have been excited about this because of my own journey too, and how important I have found for it to become, to have those other experiences, right?
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, maybe it looks, you're saying I have a focused life. Maybe it looks from the outside now that I have a focused life. And if I look from the present moment, right, it could be that, and that's how I also see like our life or our destiny, right? If I look from the present moment, I could consider it as that all my past events, all the decisions I made, the journeys I had, the travels, the job decisions, private decisions, whatever, they led to this moment, actually to you and me sitting here now having this discussion, right? But you could see it also from the other direction. Maybe I was also like a lost soul, right? Maybe I was also just,
Okay.
I was looking for something, right? I mean, why would I travel? You don't have to travel, right? You can be happy without traveling. And everybody needs to find their own way. But yeah, I think I was also looking for something, right? I was also looking for the answers that somebody gives me the answers. And the interesting thing is, I think, this is also one of my personal transformations. The interesting thing is that for many years, maybe that's how I see it today, right? Maybe I look for that in travels, in new cultures and everything. But meanwhile, I mean, I'm still traveling and I love it. And I like to have adventures in the nature. But meanwhile, I understand also that that I need to find the answers within myself, that I have already all the answers and that I don't need to go out to find the answers, right?
There you go.
You
Inside
got-
out.
Sorry, I was a
Inside
little bit confused because I lost your image.
No. Remember, there's questions. By the way, there's 400 people on the show right now.
Oh, okay, great.
But there's questions coming on. Remember, for the rest of this time, I've never had that happen. I don't know why the internet went down. This is a very robust system here, so my apologies for that. But me coming off now is to give you emphasis and for me to check out some questions. Like for instance, so why don't we just take this opportunity and jump onto something here I'm really curious about. This one here from Matthew. How did your family react when you decided to leave corporate life altogether? And you already said it was something you and your wife talked
Yeah.
about, but how did all that go?
Yeah. Hi, Matthew. Thanks for the question. Yeah, I think as I mentioned before, right, it was my wife, because she's seeing not only because of me, but it was all, we're making family decisions, right? We're 4 people. We have 2 kids, my wife. At this time, my kids were younger, so it was mainly a discussion between me and my wife. But she was pushing more towards it because she was also not happy anymore during the pandemic with the life there and with her job and with the kids. But she was actually more open to that idea. And for me, it was actually quite difficult because I had this, I would call it a limiting belief, right? Because I had, for 20 years, every month I was getting my paycheck, right? And I told my wife, no, I cannot quit my job. I need to feed the kids. I need to bring home the money. We need to pay the mortgage. We need to pay everything, right? I cannot quit my job. We cannot just go travel now. And yeah, once we did it, it changed quickly, but it took me also some time, and also with the help of my wife to get through these limiting beliefs. And today I know I could do it. I mean, we just did it, right? But I think that's what many people are stopping, because you see, no, I have to stay in this, even if I don't like the job, but I have to stay because I need the money, and we have all this. Now, when you ask about my family, for the kids, it was, I think we also it was during a good age, right? This time they were 10 and 12-ish. And I think it was good because they had I think it's more difficult when they're teenagers because they have like more their own social system. But at this age, I think, yeah, sure, they were sad that they have to leave their friends and family when we said we go to Mexico. But I think they took it quite easy. And also here, when we came to Mexico, first of all, we traveled for 8-9 months through the country. We bought an SUV and put everything in the car, and slept in a lot of Airbnb. So it was like an adventure. It was like a holiday, or longer holiday. And actually, the point that helped me to overcome this limiting belief was just a change in my perspective, because we asked ourselves, so what's actually the worst thing that can happen? Okay, we sell our house. I mean, we had some savings that would stay with us for a while. But we said, okay, the worst thing is we go to Mexico, we travel around there for 1 year. And if we don't like it, we can go back and we will find new jobs. We will look for other jobs. And then we, maybe not exactly the same job, but we would find some new jobs and we would do the same as before. So actually our worst case scenario was a 1-year vacation. And then it's actually not that bad anymore, right? It's like a mental change in perspective. I mean, it sounds easy now, but
yeah, no, and this is where we're going to kind of get into and kind of drill down step by step here along the journey here. That there's some questions that have come up, like Lori here, and what was the hardest fear? So you're talking about that now a little bit. But one specifically, so the worst case scenario, you had a year vacation. So that's really well approached to make the most out of this change that you're going through, this new journey. But what was the one fear that you think was the most that stands out to you?
Yeah,
right in the middle of
the
reset.
One of the fears is the one I described right now, that just the money thing, and that I cannot support anymore, that we will end up sitting on the street, right, with 2 kids, don't have the means anymore to supply my family. That was one. The other thing was also probably something, how this is perceived, or yeah, the other thing is probably also like my own thought is, what happens if I fail? And not so much if I fail, but what happens probably, it was probably more, to be perfectly honest, what will other people say if he's failing or if they're failing, right? So because I had a good job, I had a well-paying job. Most people would, or many people would probably be jealous on my job. And most people thought we are crazy, right? They're quitting their job, they're selling their house, they have such a good life and everything.
What the hell?
And now they're throwing everything to the garbage. And I was actually, I think the fear was, yeah, what if I fail? What will they think about me? So
yeah, no, that's not an uncommon, right? I mean, that is not uncommon at all. That's kind of the thing, and I get it. I mean, I get exactly what you're saying, and it is what you're talking to about within yourself. But yeah, and then you turn and look and say, I wonder what they're thinking, or what, because we know a lot of people in the world, right? I just wanted to bring Ryan into here for a second. Why don't you read this message real quick?
Ingo's journey is inspiring and refreshingly honest. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm trying to be honest. It's inspiring, yeah, and it was also inspiring for me. Thank you.
Absolutely. And by the way, we're here for a reason. You have a story to tell, and you're wanting to make mention of that, and let's definitely talk about that. Which brings me to the point. By the way, before the end of the show, which isn't now, but before the end, I like to give people warning. You see that private chat on the right side there in the panel? Can you put your contact information into that so I can copy and paste it directly into the comments towards the end of the show after the chat's kind of slowing down here a bit?
Sure.
But in the meantime, Olivia here, do you think AI is accelerating the identity crisis for professionals? We do a lot on, and your story is very interesting because of the different components of it. And so I want to hear more about that part of that. But we talk a lot about AI and how it's disrupting the world faster than any other, not revolution, or I guess revolution, industrial revolution, took a lot longer, different changes in the world or upgrades to humanity have taken longer times for societies or generations to adjust. The AI is moving that speed cycle up hugely. So this is an interesting question from Olivia. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think it's a real problem, and it's absolutely on point, right? And I think it's true that AI is accelerating this identity crisis, and I think not even so much from a job point of view, right? Because I mean, there are different predictions now about AI, right? I think also that AI will replace a lot of job, or even make a lot of jobs obsolete, right? And very quickly, because as we said, it's the fastest industrial revolution we ever had. So within a few years, a lot of jobs will be obsolete. The difference now is, and that's what also, like, for example, Elon Musk is saying that also, right? He doesn't believe that means that the people are unemployed and they will be sitting on the street or something, or that they won't have a job anymore. Because I think at the same time, AI is creating new wealth. And we had this also in all other industrial revolutions.
Let me jump in here. Right? Let me jump in. First of all, you got a reflection going right at your face there. I think it's from your.
Just move the curtains.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I didn't know where that was coming from, but it was right in your eyes. It must have been challenging. I know it's.
That's the Mexican sun. That's why we.
Oh yeah. It's a beautiful place, man. I used to go to Mexico all the time. I had a timeshare down there, and spent a lot of time there because I'm from Southern California. And what part of Mexico, by the way?
We're in Veracruz. We're in a city in the mountains. It's called Jalapa. It's like 2 hours from Puebla, 4 hours to Mexico City.
So you must be.
Sorry?
You're north of Mexico City there?
No, we're east.
You're east of Mexico City.
Yes.
Huh. Okay. I'm not. I have knowledge, but man, you just rattle off stuff that was way beyond my geographical knowledge base there for Mexico.
No,
it is a beautiful country, and it's a beautiful area. Where's the there's an industrial part north of Mexico City, just not too far.
Monterrey?
What is it?
Monterrey?
Well, Monterey's not in the mountain. I'm sorry, in the mountains though. Monterey's down on
Yeah.
the beach. But yeah, anyway,
San
I
Luis
used to hang out.
Potosí, there are two cities, yeah.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of business over there, and just really loved the area. Now I forgot what I was getting into. So, what is? Damn it! I had a point I was getting to, and then I got thinking of memories of Mexico, and then I just my thought totally left my head
About
there.
AI predictions.
Yeah. Oh, so AI is AI is something we talk a lot about on the show. Thank you. There was my point. There was my thought. And you're right. I don't think it's a. I mentioned in the monologue about there's a there's this new world coming, and the AI is going to make the cost of living and the cost of goods and all that really, 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 lower and lower and lower. What it's also going to do is there's going to be an adjustment in the workforce, like you were just alluding to, what Elon Musk mentioned. My son and I talk about this. He does a show, Brandon Duff, on YouTube, and he does a lot more on AI. And he talks about there's probably going to be an economy adjustment. There's going to be probably some issues coming with when the jobs change, because, like you said, some will go away, but some will be replaced. For instance, you're going to need AI to write code because it's faster, but you're going to need managers to manage those AI agents. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to elaborate on, right? I think many jobs will go away. Different than in other industrial revolutions, I don't think there will be so many new jobs created as some studies and some people predict, right? Because I think now we're at a point where, I mean, if you look at all the, like 3 years ago, if you were a computer scientist and you went to study computer science, that was a job guarantee, right? Already now, these big companies, they don't hire coders anymore, not to such an extent, right? So the demand for coders goes down because AI is doing the coding now, right? And I think the first step is that all the computer related tasks will fall away, or yeah, just look at how quickly can you do your content for your show, how quickly can you write a blog, how quickly can you translate documents, how quickly can you do a market research. So yeah, there will be some demand for managers, but not to that extent. I mean, there will be far more jobs be replaced than will be created new ones. So what Elon Musk is saying, and what I also believe, is that different to other revolutions, I mean, still there will be a lot of new wealth created, right? At least, like, let's say, financial or economical wealth. So that means there will not be like a lack of anything, right? People will probably not be, maybe they will be unemployed, but there will be enough for everybody, right? I mean, the computer, the AI is the first step, but then with the robot,
utopia I talk about.
sorry?
The utopia I mentioned, where you don't necessarily have to work.
Yeah, the question, yes, that's a good point. You call it an utopia. And that's what Elon Musk also said, right? He said there will be abundance. There will be a place of abundance. But I think that's the tricky part, because now we maybe don't need to work anymore. So it's exactly how, I forget the name of the lady who asked the question, was it becomes to identity crisis, right? Maybe it's not necessarily a job crisis, because sorry, that's Olivia. Thank you, Olivia. It's an identity crisis, because if the job is a major part of our identity, right? And if we don't have this identification anymore, then what's left? I mean, what are we doing? Okay, utopia is what? I'm watching Netflix all day long, or what am I doing in my utopia? I don't have to work. The robot's bringing me the food. And I think that will be, it maybe sounds not too critical, but for many people, it's already today a problem. What am I doing with my free time? And I'm
You're
also
making an
teaching, and
awesome
I'm
point,
also
dude.
teaching at the university here. And if I see this coming generation, like they're in the early 20s, um, they they cannot be bored anymore, right? They're afraid of the boredom. They're just constantly on the phone. And I mean, this development is probably also one reason why my wife and I said, okay, we want to go somewhere else. We don't necessarily agree with this life in the Western world anymore. I mean, there are pros and cons everywhere, right? I'm also using the technology. I'm not against this technology, but you still need to find your human essence, right? You need to know what makes you and what makes you different. And today it's like kind of merging, right? AI, and it's getting in worse with transhumanism and when they're implanting you chips in the brain, but already now, right?
Before we get into that, where you were just transitioning into the plants chips in the brains, you made an awesome point, something I haven't really thought about. So we have a utopia coming, and then you made that comment. What does that utopia look like? Is it me looking at Netflix all day long on a tube because everything's being done for me and I don't have to work? And that's an awesome point. And it reminds me of a story, kind of a short version here of a study they did on centurions. You know what a centurion is? Somebody who lives over 100 years old, right? And there's pockets of them, and well, I shouldn't say that. And they studied these certain pockets of them in this area, and when they did this study, they looked at all the different things that you could look at to see why these pockets have a large percentage of centurions. And they went through all these different things because all the foods were different, the health was different, the populations, the locations, all that. There was no common factors. But what they did find is eventually is that there was these communities that had purpose driven. There were leadership in those communities, and a lot of people were following this purpose, this mission. Missions were being created for people. For instance, people now have a mission. People live longer. You talk about the utopia, right? And that's the critical thing is, and where you're at right now, that's part of your journey is how do you address that? How do you make that a mission now? Like, right, we're on missions now, right? My producer Barbie told me one time, you built a machinery business over 30 years. That was ego. That was your ego did that. You drove it. This podcast, love is driving your own journey. Love is. What do you think of all that?
Yeah, that's exactly the point, right? You need some reason to live, and that's what you described right now is what's happening to many people when they're getting retired, right? They're working in their business, or they build their business for 30, 40 years, and then I thought it was my father or with other people that get retired, right? They're working their ass off for 40 years, and then they go retired, and they think, oh, now I have time, and then they get retired, and they think, okay, what am I doing now? I mean, my identity was this job, right? So what am I doing now? Okay, I mean, for most of the people, luckily, they find something, right? And it takes some time. But there are also other people that struggle or that just like, distract themselves with television, with Netflix, or I don't know, with other stuff that's distracting. So I think that's an important point, and that's something we need to solve as a society also, because that's why I see AI also, even that it brings a lot of advantages, I see it also as a problem for society, because it takes away all these tasks from us. So we need to go back to our roots and identify with ourselves and figure out, okay, why are we here, right? And that's actually, I'm a big fan of Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher, and that's what he described already like 200 years ago, right? In 1850, more or less, when he was alive, he wrote his books, and he's describing actually that, and it was his famous saying when he said, "God is dead," right? That's what he meant. He didn't mean that some event or something that God died. But what he meant is, since that time, since the 18th, 19th century, when we started to go away from the church as an institution and
Right.
Started to believe more and more in science and give up everything that, not every, but things that make us human, like our intuition or our like mythology. That's when we started to, he's calling that we killed God. No, we killed not God like literally, but like our belief system we killed. And we all have, okay, there's a part is science and we can like, it's all great and everything. But also a big part of us is the belief, because we cannot know everything, right? And Nietzsche said, okay, it's actually good that we killed this God, because he was also not a big fan of the church, but he was also afraid. He warned the people of nihilism, because if you give up God, you need to create something else. You need to start to create your own values, and that's what he said. But he described all this development that we saw over the last 200 years, which is basically that today we have a kind of a nihilism. People don't believe in anything, whatever, they believe in social media or something. And that's why we have such a, let's say, distracted or messed up society. And we have so much, because people are a little bit lost, right? And this will get worse with AI.
I think you're dead on. I like to say it like this: I'm not an expert on religion, but I have a very good relationship. I have a very close relationship with God, so I like to say, and we do talk about religion on the show because I think it's important. I like to say God is real, religion is man-made, and that's not to say religion doesn't exist. It's just to say, they're focus on the religion, not on God and the Word. With that, I was in AA. I don't know if you know what AA is, but some of the one lane we have is mental health and addiction and so forth. And in there, AA is not pushing God, but they said exactly they say exactly what you just said. If you don't believe in God, you need to have a higher power. You need, for no other reason than to just, this weight that I have, this thing, to put it onto something bigger than yourself, and to look to something bigger than yourself. Expand on that point. I loved what you said there.
Yes, absolutely. That's the point. Yeah, and I think it's great if you believe in God, and there's so many people today believing in God, believing in the church. I think it's great because it gives them this base, this foundation, right, that they can trust in it, and that's good because that's what you need. Many of us are educated differently, right? I'm an engineer, so I'm a very technical person, but and I found this probably also out only later in life, but you need this part that, as you're saying, it's something you believe in, some power that you need to believe in. And what Nietzsche was saying is, so you need to create your own power. And what he actually meant is also, you don't need to find your God like Jesus on the cross or like some elephant statues in Hinduism or something like that. That's not what he meant by God. You can find your God also within yourself, right? Because we all part of the divine. So, and Nietzsche said, okay, then you need to go out and create your own values and become a creator and overcome yourself. And by that, yes, so to build this foundation or build this other part, right? Because we cannot explain, as I mentioned, explain everything by science and technology. And that's something,
I'm wondering.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm wondering here. I've done. Let's see. I think I haven't looked in a little while, but we're somewhere around 460 shows that we've done on Insights and Straight Talk, and we started on September 7th, Constitution Day in America, last year, 2024. So in a year and a half ish, we've done we're getting close to 500 shows. I do a show every day, 6 days a week. I do one on Saturday. I think you might like this. It's called Insight. It's with my granddaughter. It's called Insights and Straight Talk with Emma Lynn and Grandpa Rod. I think that's the coolest thing. We've done dozens of shows, episodes now. And it's about that regeneration school project and the voices at the table. She's an unusual one in that I am old. Yes, I'm old, but high school sweethearts, her parents, and in college they got married and then they had her. So she's 16. So she does that show with me, and I really love that. But anyway, my point being is that I get the opportunity. I'm kind of spoiled because I get all this free input, this free advice from experts like yourself that, make a living they're passing that on, but they've got to keep the lights on, right? But in my situation, I'm fortunate in that 6 days a week, well, 5 days a week, Emma and I we're equals. So, but 6 days a week, 5 days a week, we get new guests on every day. And there's a lot of work to it. And yes, I use AI to try and help me with some of this shit because it's me, Amano, and I. With that said, it's fascinating to be able to get that advice and from different people. Like I had said, it brings these experiences together, and it's awesome to hear something like what you're bringing to the table here, and that journey of because I think it's so important to be part of the life that you want to be part of, but also to have something higher to answer for, to help you set your grounding, and then also to be able to pivot and say, you know what, that's not working for me. My family, let me put it all in something higher's hands and make that decision you did and go into that journey. And I'm curious, Dixon here's got a question that I think is fascinating. I may be wrong here, but to me, it seems like it's going to be a fascinating question in that. What role did body-based practices play in your transformation?
What is meant by body-based practices? Something like sports or like something that involves the body?
That exactly. That's where I'm guessing he's going with that. I didn't know if you knew that a little bit more than I had missed in my information, because a lot of these guys do research on who's coming up. I didn't know if there was something I missed, but yeah, to me, body-based practices would be things that you're taking your body and causing you to have a better thought in life. That alignment.
Yeah, and for me that's very important, and it was all my life, right? I mentioned already before, I did a lot of endurance sports and running up and down mountains and climbing mountains and swimming in the sea, and I like to be very close to nature, and I think this is also important because if we're too mind focused, that's, by the way, also something that Nietzsche criticized, that we focusing too much on the rational mind, and that our body, our feelings, our intuition are actually giving also, they're much more powerful, right? They're much more knowledgeable. And for me, this is also kind of a meditation, right? If I go for a, like, let's say 2-hour run, actually, I like it. Before in the intro, you said you're also running with your dogs. So I have also 2 dogs here. So I'm almost every day we're going for a run in the forest.
Oh, they love it.
I'm going with the bike somewhere, or I'm doing also like long distance events. And by long distance, I mean, for example, like whatever, 10, 12 days bike packing with crazy kilometers on the
Nice.
bike. And for me, this is like, people always ask me, so what are you doing all the time? Like when you're running for 3 hours or when you're biking 10 hours. So what are you doing? Do you have music or do you listen to something? I must say, no, most of the time, no. I mean, yeah, sometimes music, but most of the time, no, because it's my opportunity to be with myself and to like feel that body experience, and to listen to my body and to also connect with nature, right? Especially when I'm running in the forest or something, because then you're really alone and it's not getting boring. It's like a extended form of meditation, right? It's like you're with your thoughts and with your, all the time happens something, right? So it's Yeah, I think body-based experiences are very important. I also do. Like last month, I would consider this also a body-based practice. I did a 12-day fast, so a water fast for
Yep.
12 days. I'm doing that since like 7 years, every year,
I've done that. I love that.
once or twice a week. And that's also something that helps you connect, because with your body and with your, Carl Jung calls it the shadow, like our unconscious mind, because usually we also, like, the distraction that I mentioned comes also from a lot of like physical things, right? We're constantly exposed to some snackings, or having a coffee, or having here a cookie and there I need to snack something and here some nuts. So and that also means one of our big systems, are the digestive systems in the body, is working 24 hours, right? So, and during such a time, if you don't eat for 12 days and you shut down all this, let's say, this basic systems of the body, you're creating a lot of space for other things to happen, right? I mean, during this time, yes, I get closer to my body. I understand to listen better to my body. But it was also very good opportunity, because you go in a different kind of metabolism, right? You go in ketosis, it's called, when you're burning fat instead of carbohydrates, or your body. And you're becoming much more clear in your head. And also, especially during this fast, I worked a lot on my dream. I did a lot of dream analysis and interpretation, because during the fast, your dreams are getting much more vivid and intense, and suddenly, I mean, at least for me, they become much more kind of stories and much more symbolic or archetypical. So yeah, it was a great experience. I think, to answer the question, yeah, I think it's very important to do something with your body, and you don't have to do what I do. You need to find your own way, right? But yeah, do something with your body. It can be cold showers. It can be.
I would disagree in that it shouldn't be anything other than exactly what you just said, because I first of all I think of it this way: the body has three brains, right? It has the brain of the head, it has the brain of the heart, it has the brain of the gut, right? Gut instinct, right? And just opening with that, I fasted. Or still do periodically, but I went through a period when I had a motorcycle accident. I broke every bone on the side of my body, and I gained a lot of weight from not doing a lot of things. I was in the hospital 3 months and all that. But at some point, I was doing this fasting program just to get back my weight. I lost like 75 pounds over the last year and a half or so. But in that, the ketosis that you were talking about is fascinating, because then your cells actually regenerate easier, better, faster, right? It kicks off your cells regenerating. So you actually get younger in fasting, you know? So
Yes.
there's a lot of keys to that, right?
Also, if they use it, for example, in cancer therapy, right? Because if you're fasting, the body starts to, like, it's not a
Focus.
medical term now, but like to eat up the cancer cells if you're fasting for whatever.
Yeah, for exactly the reason you said. And that's why I think the whole three brains thing goes, because what that body's doing is you're shutting down the part that has to digest, and enzymes and this and that and this and that. There's a lot of work that's focused on the body doing that, plus the, pooping, the leaving of the body. You know, like you said, you're shutting down that major part. So now the body is recovering much easier. Just it's like giving the body instead of swimming, getting on one of those water things. You know what I'm talking about? The scuba divers use. Right? I mean, all that energy is going to that. That's why sleeping when you're sick helps. That's a smaller version of what you're just talking about, isn't it? That's a good comparison, I think.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So Jim Carrey here. What advice would you give someone? Yeah, exactly. What advice would you give someone feeling successful but empty?
Yeah, I mean that's probably the basic most important question, right? And I think many
I agree.
people today are in this situation. And I think that the first question is, so why are we empty despite being successful? And the answer is usually that you look successful or you feel successful, but usually the problem is that it's not by your own definition of success. It's somebody else's definition of success. And this is what, so in psychology, this is something Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, he described it as, so what we're doing during our lives, right? We have he calls it the persona, which is basically our ego. This is basically the mask we are wearing in our jobs, but also in our private life, in our families. Because, and this also makes sense because for different situations, we might to have different, or we might want different of our characteristics to show up. Anyway, so we're building up this persona, this ego, this mask. But there are a lot of traits we're giving up for that, right? And we put them in our unconscious, in our shadow. So they're hidden there. And that's also normal. That's also okay. The problem is if we ignore them for too long, right? If we bury them, that's actually, I think there's a good book. I forget who wrote it, but it's called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. So, that's exactly the point, right? If we get rid, I mean, once upon a time, let's say in our 20s or something, we made a career decision. We said, okay, we go for this in this career. That means we gave us maybe our creativity because we wanted to have the corporate security, maybe some of our more emotional stuff because it didn't fit in the corporate world. And it's different for everybody, but yeah, so we still have these traits, but we're just not integrating them. And Carl Jung says, okay, the key is, and that's what I also did with my dream analysis in my shadow work, the key is, or to answer, maybe let me first answer the question. The advice for being empty or being successful but being empty is you need to look for the answer within yourself. No, it's not, you don't have to read another or personal development books or listen to more podcasts, because all of these gurus and all of these life hacks, they won't help you. But the answer is within you. And this can be also only done by inner work, by shadow work. There are different, like for example, my dream analysis. No, there's meditation. Just confront yourself with yourself. It's more helpful there also, like going out and being with yourself. And I think today people are, we're afraid of the silence, right? We cannot spend a minute anymore without, because it makes us feel uncomfortable, right? We're not used to that anymore. We always, okay, let me check the next message and whatever.
Right.
So, and if my first advice is always to go back and just spend time with yourself. Go out to the nature for an hour or meditate or whatever fits you, right? But just turn away the phone and listen what your body or your unconscious, your shadow starts to tell you. And this won't happen immediately, but if you do this consistently, let's say whatever, half an hour per day, or start with 10, 15 minutes per day to make it easy, I think that's the right way.
And some of these suggestions, I shouldn't say some, these suggestions are on the website here, right? I've got that down right.org here. Smallest reset.
Oh yeah, that's my website. Yeah, I write a lot of this about this stuff. Yeah.
Perfect. And on there you have shadow guides and the things within what you're doing. Why don't you talk a little bit about your website real quickly, and then I've got a comment here from somebody that I think you'll want to read.
Yeah, so my website, I came up with this idea when when we came to Mexico, then I mentioned, right? So in the beginning, and that's maybe I tell before. So the interesting thing was, so the moment I made this decision to quit my job, right? I mean, before that moment, I had all this limiting beliefs and say, what will happen if I don't make it? But I must say something interesting happened, because when we made this decision, and one day we took we had, I think, like 8 suitcases that were left from all our belongings. We had 2 dogs and we had our 2 kids, and like this we went to the airport. I still have one picture where we're standing with all these dogs and kids and suitcases in the airport. But I must say, from this moment, it was like a release. I never had this fear anymore. I don't know why. It's probably also like a little bit the principle of minimalism, right? So if you don't have too much, you cannot lose too much, and you don't care too much. So,
I like that about the younger generation. I like their approach towards minimalism, which is
and then we went to Mexico to travel, right? And I didn't really know how I will make money, but I just know somehow we will figure it out, right? And we say, okay, first we will go travel, we learn Spanish, we'll have a look on the culture where we like it, we'll find a place. And then, awesome. Then I came up with this idea of this small reset. So I started like also doing a lot of coaching and mentoring programs. And this, my website is called The Small Reset. It's actually it's like the opposite of the Great Reset, right? It's coming from the Great Reset. And there's this idea of the Great Reset. Yeah. And, there are these few guys, however you want to call them, sitting there and saying, okay, we need to do this and this and this, and this will make the world better. And my approach is different. My approach is more like a bottom-up approach, right? I think, okay, there's so many people in the world. And first of all, I don't believe in equality, because I think we're just not, you're different, I'm different, everybody on the show is different. So we all need to find our own ways. So I just thought, instead of having this great reset, I think it's better if we all look on ourselves and step by step do our small resets. Like myself also, right? I'm not enlightened or something. I'm still on my journey, and it will probably continue till the end of my life. So, and I will continue with small resets every day. And sometimes it's a bigger one, and sometimes there's no reset. But that's the approach, right? To just go by small steps, and to start from there, and not to trying to change now the world or changing now some circumstances that anyway I can't influence. But the first thing is to work on myself and make myself better. And if that's again coming back to this inner world, because if I have, and many books and many psychologists talk about it, right? But if you have this inner peace, if you have this inner clarity, it doesn't matter if AI coming or if a war is coming. So we will, because I know I'm in the right place, and I will. And exactly. Don't misunderstand me. It's not about happiness. No, it's not about being happy all of the time. Because I'm also not happy all of the time, right? There's also like moments to be sad, but these are just feelings and emotions. And the key is more how Nietzsche would call it amor fati, no? Like you have to love fate, whatever it brings to you, and you just accept it. And if you combine that with your creativity and with going beyond and trying to improve yourself, then that's your way. And then then external external circumstances won't influence you too much.
All right, Ingo. Why don't you read this last comment? Give a big wave to everybody. I'll put you in the green room, close some things out, and talk to you back there after the show's over. See you on the other side. Read this comment, though.
Powerful story. Appreciate you sharing this live. Thank you.
Thank you. Any last comments? And with the big wave, and I'll meet you in the green room in a second.
No, so I'm just glad to be here, and I'm just that people are interested in that. And I think again, don't look too much to other people. You need to create your own story, and it's your own life, and start from there.
Well, you have a good one. I'll see you in a second. As another great show, we have 400 people here still, and like I say periodically, having the advantage of standing back and looking at all these shows, 450-ish so far, and being able to myself step back, like like Ingo did it here, and step back and look at, the results of this so far. As he said earlier, today is the sum of all my decisions that led me to this point here now. So I love these discussions. Like I said, there's so many different ones that we've done. The ones that we've done in this environment is so interesting. There is a bit of a common theme in that you've got to go from the inside out, and that's why I like to have people coming onto the show, kind of watch some of the episodes so they can see the journey of and the messages that we've been able to have on this show, meaning the same subjects, the same great stories and great journeys. It's fascinating to be able to have that, and it's great to have that to know coming in and make the most impactful episode with you, our audience. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you guys doing all the studying the whatever information you look for to be able to come and find our show. And please subscribe, hit the like button. But just one final, I want to say thank you to the Mangum City Library, your help and your belief in us and our re-education school project, and along with Leaf Lab that sponsor us as well. Guys just coming on, newest ones aboard, and I appreciate that. It's it helps with keeping these messages moving forward. This is independent voices are not always are just like anything else. They need to have the lights stay on and the ability to keep this message moving forward. And with that, this is Insights and Straight Talk. My name is Rod Duff. I am your host. Stay on the other side of the outro video so you can see the little goofy thing, whatever it is that I plan on doing in the next 30 seconds. And with that, I am out.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. It is good.